There are moments in life when nothing collapses and nothing explodes. No loud noise, no obvious sign for the outside world to notice. But inside, an entire world is quietly shifting. Libra is standing in exactly one of those moments. A moment you cannot name as fear and cannot describe as joy. It feels like a soft wind passing through, carrying the sense that what once felt familiar has suddenly become too tight. As if the shirt you once wore so comfortably no longer gives your breath enough room. You may not say it out loud, but you feel it clearly. The things that once made you feel safe no longer bring you peace. The roles you worked so hard to fulfill are beginning to exhaust you, not because you've grown weaker, but because you've grown larger. And when a person truly matures, they can no longer return to old patterns without losing themselves. That is why this change cannot be avoided. It did not come to destroy you. It came to place you back where you truly belong. Deep down, Libra has sensed this for a long time. There have been nights when you stayed quieter than usual. Moments when you wondered why you were still trying to keep everything balanced, while something inside you was slowly tipping out of alignment. You became used to being the one who understands, the one who gives in, the one who stands in the middle so nothing falls apart. But rarely did you ask yourself, if you keep doing this, who will stand in the middle to keep you from falling? This change is not here to force you into becoming someone else. On the contrary, it is reminding you of who you were before you learned how to please the world, before you believed your worth had to be earned through approval, before you thought peace always came at the cost of silence. This time, your heart whispers very softly, yet more clearly than ever before. It's time to turn the page, not to run from the past, but to move forward with the truth. What's different now is that you are no longer afraid the way you once were. You may still hesitate. You may still feel moments of longing, but fear is no longer in control. You have lived through enough to understand this simple truth. Staying in a place that no longer belongs to you is what drains the soul the most. And at this point in your life, Libra begins to allow honesty. Honest with your emotions. Honest with your limits. Honest with your desire to live a life that no longer needs constant explanation. This change feels more like dawn than a storm. It arrives slowly, bringing gentle light, yet strong enough to reveal what you once avoided seeing. Relationships that no longer meet you halfway. Choices built on obligation rather than joy. Old beliefs about yourself you have carried for far too long. When the light appears, you no longer blame yourself for having lived in the dark. You simply realize, quietly, that you deserve a new day. And in that silent moment, when you stop resisting, stop holding on, stop trying to explain yourself to anyone, something deeply important begins to happen. You start to see everything more clearly, not through logic, but through a rare calm of a heart that is finally ready to walk forward in alignment with its own truth. And when that calm finally arrives, you begin to realize something very deep and very true, that for a long time, you have been trying far too hard to become a version of yourself that feels acceptable in the eyes of others. No one forced you. You chose it. You taught yourself how to smile, even when you were tired inside. You learned how to place your own emotions last, just to keep everything around you from being disturbed. Libra has lived this way for so long that at times you confused harmony with self-sacrifice. You became used to listening, used to adjusting, used to being the emotional anchor for feelings that were never truly yours to carry. There were days when you walked away from a conversation looking perfectly composed, while inside you felt strangely empty. There were decisions you nodded yes to, not because your heart agreed, but because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. And slowly, that silence became a habit, a dangerous habit, because it made you forget what it feels like to speak your truth, to need something for yourself, to be allowed to not be okay without having to explain why. Deep inside, there has always been a part of you, waiting patiently, a version that once dreamed freely, that believed emotions should be met with fairness, that thought if you were sincere enough, life would respond with equal gentleness. That version never disappeared. It simply stepped back, making room for responsibilities, for roles, for expectations that kept growing heavier over time. But nothing stays forgotten forever. When the moment becomes right, when you are strong enough to no longer fear upsetting others, that part of you begins to stir awake. This awakening is not loud. It doesn't make you want to rebel or cut everything off in a sudden impulse. Instead, it is quiet, mature. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You simply feel tired of continuing to live a life built on expectations that were never truly yours. And for the first time in a very long while, you allow yourself to ask one honest question. If no one were watching, if no one were waiting, if no one needed you to hold everything together, how would you choose to live? That question doesn't demand an immediate answer. It only asks that you stay with it long enough to understand something essential. Living truthfully is not about hurting others. It is about stopping the harm you've been doing to yourself. Living truthfully is not about breaking relationships apart. It is about no longer bending your emotions to fit someone else's frame. As this understanding settles in, a sense of relief spreads through your chest. Hard to name, but unmistakable. As if, after years of breathing shallowly, you are finally able to take a full, deep breath. And within that relief, you slowly begin to see who can walk with you in this new version of yourself, and who was only connected to the old version that always knew how to give in. Not with judgment, not with resentment, just a rare clarity. A clarity where you no longer feel the need to hold everything together at any cost. You start to look at relationships, choices, and long-held beliefs through a different lens. The lens of someone who is finally ready to respect themselves. And from that place, a very important truth begins to reveal itself. Gently, but undeniably. And as your vision becomes clearer, not sharp, not judgmental, but guided by a gentle awareness, you begin to realize something important. There were things you had already seen, long before now, but never dared to name. Not because you lacked intelligence, but because you placed other people's comfort above your own truth. Now, the truth no longer hides. It reveals itself in the smallest details, in the heaviness you feel each time you try to hold on to a relationship that has lost its rhythm, in the quiet exhaustion that comes from continuing to invest in things that no longer nourish your soul, and in the unexpected sense of relief that appears when you imagine letting go, even if only in your thoughts. You begin to recognize who is truly walking beside you, not through promises, not through appearances, but through who remains. When you are no longer the version who always knows how to please. Some people once felt familiar, close, almost inseparable, yet they only fit the old version of you. The version that knew how to endure, how to adjust, how to bend quietly. And then there are others. They may not say much, but with them, you breathe at your natural pace. You feel like yourself, without explanations, without effort. This realization does not make you bitter. It brings only a soft sadness, like noticing that a season has passed and there is no longer a reason to ask it to stay. At the same time, your true values begin to take shape. You are no longer drawn to what impresses others, but leaves you empty. You start valuing peace over approval, depth over surface, sincerity over beautiful compromises that feel hollow inside. What no longer fits does not need to be condemned. It has simply completed its role. And when you understand that, letting go no longer feels like failure. It feels like quiet gratitude for having learned what you needed to learn. There were beliefs you carried for a long time that if you tried hard enough, everything would eventually balance itself. That if you endured long enough, love would naturally grow deeper. But the truth reveals itself now, not cruel, just honest. Not everything grows through sacrifice. Not every relationship is saved by silence. And staying is not always an act of kindness. Sometimes, leaving at the right moment is how you honor both yourself and the other person. What's strange is this: when these truths surface, they don't hurt the way they used to. Maybe because you've cried enough. Maybe because you've accepted that not every story needs a perfect ending. Or maybe because, at this point in your life, you understand something deeply. Truth does not arrive to wound you. It arrives to release you from invisible bonds that have held you in place for far too long. The feeling is like setting down a heavy load you had grown so used to carrying that you forgot how heavy it was. You begin to sense a different kind of freedom. Not loud, not impulsive, but a wide, open space within where you no longer have to strain to maintain what has already run dry. You allow yourself to say no without guilt. You allow yourself to step back without self-blame. And you allow yourself to believe that life can be gentler when you stop resisting your own truth. Within that release, a new energy begins to move into your life. Soft, yet unmistakably real. As if, after clearing out old rooms, light finally finds its way inside. And when that light reaches you, you realize you are standing at a very important crossroads, where the choices ahead are no longer guided by the fear of losing, but by a rare clarity from a heart that is finally ready to walk toward what it truly deserves. And as you stand in that open space, where light has finally reached the corners that were once hidden, life begins to offer you a very clear sign, not through thunder, not through grand promises, but through an opportunity that appears at exactly the right moment, as if it has been waiting for you to be ready for a very long time. It might come as an invitation that makes your heart subtly stir, a choice you once believed you didn't have the courage to take, or a path you had passed by before, never daring to believe it was truly meant for you. This turning point does not arrive with urgency. It comes calmly, like a door opening, in complete silence. It may be connected to money, where for the first time, you see your independence and your value placed exactly where they belong. It may be work, where you no longer have to prove yourself through exhaustion, but are recognized for who you truly are. It may be love, where you realize that connection does not require your self-disappearance. Or even deeper, it may be your way of living, where you begin asking how you want to feel when you wake up each morning, not who others expect you to become. What feels most different this time is that you no longer feel cornered, forced to choose out of fear. No more sleepless nights, weighing right and wrong by someone else's standards. You realize you do not need to rush a decision just to keep someone else comfortable. A beautiful slowness appears. In the way you meet this moment, you allow yourself to pause, to breathe deeply, to listen to the quiet movements inside, the ones you used to ignore, because you were too busy holding the world in balance. And within that listening, your heart begins to speak, not loudly, not dramatically, just with a clarity that feels familiar, as though you had known it all along, but had not touched it in a very long time. A sense that this direction makes you feel lighter, that the other option, even if it feels safe, causes you to shrink inward. You do not need confirmation. You do not need long lists of pros and cons. You only need to notice whether you still have to brace yourself just to keep moving forward. And for the first time in a long while, the answer arrives naturally, as if it had always been there, simply waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear it. This destined turning point does not promise that everything will be easy from now on, but it offers something far more valuable than ease: alignment, aligned with the values you have just uncovered, aligned with the person you are becoming, aligned with the true rhythm of the life you want to live. As you stand before this choice, you no longer see yourself as small or lacking. You see yourself as whole, in a very different way, with enough experience to know what no longer belongs to you, and enough courage to move toward what opens your heart rather than what closes it. There may be people who do not understand your decision. There may be doubtful looks, advice shaped by fear rather than trust. Yet strangely, you are no longer shaken the way you once were, because you understand something deeply. No one else can live this life for you, and no one else can feel the peace or the emptiness that a choice creates, except you. As you begin to trust this truth, your steps grow steadier, even if the road ahead has not fully revealed itself. And in the moment, you allow your heart to be part of the decision, something profound begins to happen. You feel your energy shift, no longer scattered, no longer divided. It starts to gather, like water finding its natural flow after being held back for far too long. And as that current grows stronger, you understand that this is not just a single decision. It is a doorway, one that leads you into a new season of life where you no longer live split between desire and duty, but move closer to a version of yourself that is fuller, more confident, and far more deserving of the life unfolding ahead. And as you move forward, with that quiet agreement in your heart, something very different begins to unfold. Not an explosive miracle, but a silent rebirth. Deep, steady, lasting. Libra does not wake up one morning as a completely different person. This change is more like a garden coming back to life. After a long winter, the soil is the same, but it has been turned over. The roots are still there, but they begin to draw in light and water in a new way. You can feel it clearly. You are entering a phase where your energy is no longer leaking away through constant efforts to please others, but slowly returning to nourish yourself. Confidence arrives in an unexpected form, quiet, unannounced. Without display, it is no longer something you need to prove through achievement or outside validation. It shows up in the way you stand a little taller. When you walk into a room, in the way you speak your thoughts without apologizing first, in the calm you feel when not everyone understands or agrees with you. Libra begins to believe in their worth, not because of applause, but because you have lived long enough to know who you are when no one is watching. At the same time, clarity begins to form. like morning mist, slowly dissolving under soft sunlight. You are no longer pulled into vague choices that leave your heart feeling heavy. You start to recognize what truly deserves your time, your energy, and your heart. Decisions that once kept you stuck now feel simpler, not because life has become easier, but because you have stopped making it harder for yourself. You understand that not every door needs to be opened, and not every path needs to be walked just to prove your value. More importantly, you begin to know what you are worthy of, not in the sense of demanding or expecting, but in the sense of permission. Permission to live in relationships with mutual exchange. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to dream of a life that is abundant, both materially and emotionally, without shaming yourself for wanting more. And when you allow this, life begins to respond with opportunities that fit more naturally, with people who resonate more deeply, with experiences that no longer require you to trade away yourself. You no longer live for recognition in the old way. You no longer need to be seen as the good one, the easy one, the one who always understands. You live to be yourself, with depth, with feeling, with light, and with wounds that have been carefully healed. And that honesty creates a different kind of magnetism, not loud, but enduring, not showy, but expansive. Your energy begins to shift, and you notice it in small, quiet ways. Conversations feel more real. Opportunities arrive without making you question whether you deserve them. New connections appear with an ease to them, as if you no longer need to perform any role at all. This rebirth does not separate you from the world. It allows you to be present in it more fully. You grow kinder to yourself, and from that place, that kindness naturally extends to others. You understand now that when a person lives in alignment with their true nature, they do more than heal themselves. They create safer spaces for anyone who enters their life. Libra begins to carry the energy of true balance, not balance that comes from leaning too far to one side, but balance born from inner steadiness. And in that very quiet moment, when you stop trying to become something impressive, you realize you have changed far more than you thought. A new chapter does not open with a loud sound, but with a steadier heartbeat, a deeper breath, and a gentler gaze toward yourself. And from that foundation, a clear feeling begins to take shape. This journey is not finished, and what lies ahead is not only the peace you have just found, but an even more complete version of yourself. Slowly, stepping into the light. And when you stand in that gentle light long enough, without rushing, without doubt, you begin to understand the most important truth of this journey, that the new chapter you are stepping into is not a fragile dream and not a comforting illusion. It has been built from countless nights you endured in silence, from the moments you chose to face things instead of running away, from every time you looked directly at your own pain without denying it. Each time you released what no longer fit, no matter how difficult, you quietly laid another stone in the foundation of who you are today. You did not become this person overnight. You were shaped by disappointments that weighed heavy on your heart, by wounds that taught you how to hold yourself when no one else could, and even by moments when you believed you had lost your way. But the truth is, you were never truly lost. Every slow step, Every stumble was guiding you closer to the person your heart always knew you would become. Before, you simply weren't still enough to believe it. Now, when you look back, you no longer blame yourself for being soft or uncertain. You understand that this gentleness is one of the most beautiful parts of who you are. It does not make you weaker. It makes you deeper. And when you stop trying to reshape yourself to fit someone else's mold, you begin to live in your own rhythm, a rhythm that doesn't require comparison, that doesn't demand competition, just enough truth, so that each morning you wake up, you no longer ask whose life you are living. Dear Libra, you do not need to become anyone else to be worthy of love or success. You do not need to strain yourself to prove your strength. Your strength lives in your courage to feel honestly, in your willingness to speak truth to your own heart, and in your ability to walk away when you know the old road no longer belongs to you. When you allow yourself to be who you truly are, the world around you slowly adjusts to meet you at the same frequency. You can feel this through small but unmistakable changes. You are no longer easily pulled by invisible expectations. You no longer feel the need to over-explain your choices. You learn how to sit with silence without feeling empty, and how to be with yourself without feeling alone. These are the signs of someone who has come home, a place without roles to perform, without armor to wear, only presence, whole, grounded. And from this place, the miracle begins to spread. Not the kind of miracle that makes life perfect, but the kind that gives you enough steadiness to move through anything with dignity and kindness toward yourself. You attract better things now, not because you try harder, but because you have changed the way you exist in the world. You choose truth over false safety. You choose aliveness over familiar exhaustion. And each choice like this quietly widens the path ahead. This journey does not end here. It simply softens, deepens, and becomes more enduring. You move forward, not with the urgency of someone running from the past, but with the steadiness of someone who knows their worth. And when you allow yourself to live as your true self, you do more than change your own life. You send a beautiful message into the world that living honestly with yourself has never been selfish. It is a gift. And that is the miracle